Flying Brian here. It is a gray, rainy, cold winter morning and a perfect day to spend the day in the garage making a project I've been planning on for quite a while. I've got a cabinet I have been planning, this record player cabinet for, for about 6 months. Finally took some time, put the plans all down or put everything down on paper and made some plans for it. It's going to start with a set of hand-drawn plans. It's not too many parts to it, but they kind of look like this. That's what the main cabinet will look like, top, side panels, and so forth. Anyway, all I got to do basically is follow each one of these drawings, make a bunch of parts. Okay, I'm going to start by laying out the rough sizes of the pieces I need to cut on this sheet of 4x8 1/2-inch plywood. Just to kind of get them roughed in, I'm going to cut them out and then I'll fine tune those. First one is 18 by 39 inches, so I'll make it about 20 by 40 or so. At this point, you can see I've just rough laid out all the pieces. These are not final shapes, so just get them within an inch or so of where they need to be. Now it's time to start cutting. I don't have to be too careful on the cuts at this point. As I said, I'm going to refine these and bring them down to their final dimensions in a few minutes or so. My initial cut's going to be just to cut this in half, right down the center. With the sheet cut in half, it makes it twice as easy to handle, and I've got just one more cut to make.
Running the stock through the joiner puts a perfectly flat edge on the piece, which will give me a nice edge to run against the fence of my table saw. This particular piece is a bit large for the joiner, and is a little tricky to feed across the table. But with a steady hand, I get it done.
And that looks pretty smooth. Okay, good. Okay, I've now switched over to a piece of 1/4-inch plywood, which I'm going to cut out the back and drawer bottoms for.
I am now rough cutting all remaining parts from the plywood sheet. What I end up with is a bunch of pieces of wood that are all about an inch or two larger than what is needed.
I've just set up this spacer on my fence, and that's to prevent binding as I cut the drawer sides. Here are all the parts cut to their approximate dimensions. Didn't have to worry too much about their sizing at this point. However, going forward, I'm now going to refine all those cuts and bring them down to their final dimensions. So we're going to have to be a lot more careful. But we have a lot of little pieces that are much easier to handle than that large piece of plywood.
Before I start final dimensioning all the parts, I am going to run them through the joiner and put a perfectly flat edge on each one. A couple of passes is all that is needed.
These are the sides of the cabinet. They need to be cut to precisely 7 3/4 of an inch high. And I've already got my fence set up. All I have to do is just run them through the saw and they should be exactly 7 3/4 inch.
That looks like 7 3/4 inches to me.
Now it's time to cut the drawer sides all to 3 9/16 high. Now I've I've got to cut everything to the proper length. What I'm going to do is just take a fraction of an inch off, give me a nice true edge.
By cutting the end off like this, it assures the end is at a perfect 90-degree angle. Here, I am cutting the drawer bottoms to their proper size.
One of the last things to be done to the drawer sides in front is to machine in a dado to accept the drawer bottoms. I've already got my dado plate in here and the fence set, so I can go ahead and get started on this. Sand everything real quick to take off some of the burrs and little pieces of splinters and so forth, just to kind of smooth them out. Everything is now machined to its final dimensions, and we are ready to start putting things together. Looks much different from the big sheet of plywood I had earlier. You knew it had to happen sooner or later with the way I was using that saw.
Watch for part 2 where I assemble and finish the project.